close video. So for today's video, I think this range is going to be called the Wilderness Adventures, and I have two different die sets to show you. Again, they're from Tonic Studios, and they create this cool like 3D effect for your cards. You could have it as something that maybe pops up on the inside of the card, it can pop up on the outside of the card, it can just be like freestanding, like a sort of slightly bent card, and you have this sort of scene inside it. You can create like a diorama kind of effect with it, or you can just use all of the layers to build up a scene as well. And you have gorgeous little characters in there too, which the silhouette of them looks really lovely, and I'm definitely going to be doing some cards just focusing on those silhouettes as well, I think. But the cards I've got to show you are using them as they're like intended to be. And the way it kind of works is in both of the die sets you get this piece here, which has this piece that has 2 score lines and 6 little nicks in it, and the idea is that you fold it into like a U shape, and then the flat piece is where a lot of these stick onto. So for example, the rabbit has a wide flat piece as part of its design. I've got one that's cut out here as well, and so that would stick onto there, and then you could use these slot pieces to add another piece of scenery, either what's that, about half a centimetre behind, a centimetre behind, or 1.5 centimetres behind, and you can build up and sort of stagger the scene as well. You can make it as wide as you want it to be too. I'll sort of explain that more showing the samples, but I just wanted to show you that just so you sort of get the concept. So this one I think is going to be called Garden Picnic. You've got a gorgeous tree, you have a beautiful tree in both of them, and I think the trees are going to just be gorgeous for cards by themselves as well. So many elements in this set I think are going to work really nicely for like shaker cards, for art journal pages, for just your everyday kind of card making without even using the like 3-dimensional aspect of these dies. So I should hopefully be doing some videos using those a lot. I'm filming this quite ahead of time because the cards that you will see might end up being the ones that are on the packaging, so I'm quite ahead of when these dies will actually come out. So hopefully by the time they do, I'll have got some of my other ideas done using them. But so you get this gorgeous tree which has 3 sort of like big bushy parts of it, and I've been paper piecing in the flowers on it. But so this is sort of what the top of the tree looks like, with a gorgeous twisted bark trunk to it, which comes all the way down into little points as the roots of the tree as well. And this part, this inside part, is just a standalone tree. The only thing that makes it into the sort of system that works with this sort of 3D thing is cutting the outside of it, which has the 3 slits in the bottom. So just this tree on a card, on a memory book, being like a memory tree or like a family tree, or in an art journal page and stuff, will be really, really pretty. And you can also snip parts of these off to create bushes as well. So if you're building a scene and you want to maybe hide some joins that are going on down the bottom or something, you can just literally cut that top big bushy portion off and create it into a bush as well. Then you get this lovely large border, which is really great for sort of making the whole thing a bit more stable as well, and covering the join if you want to have 2 trees and stuff. So that's a really lovely piece. But again, that would fit perfectly on the bottom of an A2 or A6 card, so you could just have that as a border, or you could have it sideways and have 2 borders on a card with a sentiment in the middle. So loads of ways to take all of these dies just into your normal card making. You get this piece, which has a lovely watering can and a flower pot on. That looks really pretty. You have a wheelbarrow with flowers in, which again is the same size to fit perfectly in that middle section of the sort of 3D portion. And then you have loads of different animals and accessories. So the first animal is a gorgeous deer. She is so pretty when she's cut out. And then you also have the detail of the deer too, which has the tab on for you to stick it into this mechanism. But you don't need to use it that way. You could just have the animal through an aperture as well. I've got this oval die still out. It's not going to fit around the die. Oh dear, I ripped it. Not going to fit around the die perfectly, but the kind of idea I'm thinking is, imagine this is a small circle die. You could just have that deer and cut his feet off so you wouldn't know that he's attached to a rectangle, and you can just sort of like have him within an aperture and create a shaker behind him, or you know, all sorts of different things with all the different animals really. So that deer is so beautiful. I've got one cut out. It's just white on white because I was just seeing what they all look like. But look at that silhouette when it's cut. I just want to do a card with loads of the silhouettes because they're just so pretty. But again, you can add the other layer on top of it, and you could just snip off the feet at the bottom so it's just sort of straight, and have, like, say 3 of them on a Christmas card, just like that. I think that would look really lovely. But you can also just use the intricate bit by itself as well. And don't forget, you can also paper piece these in too. So on my cards I've paper pieced the ears in pink, and then I've put a colour behind it. I think that was all I did, I can't remember. But you could also do the chest piece or the tail in a different colour as well if you want to. Then, exactly the same as the deer, we also have the rabbit, which again is so adorable, that little rabbit. And you have the detailed die for the rabbit as well, and I have one of them cut out. So that's a gorgeous little silhouette. Isn't that beautiful? That's really going to look lovely on a card just as it is. But you also have the detail for the rabbit as well, and you can just layer them on top of each other. Obviously you'd cut them out of 2 different colours, which I'll show you on my card, or you can stick them together and use your alcohol pens or watercolours to actually make them maybe more personalised. Maybe you've got a friend who has a pet rabbit and they've got like multiple colours on them, or a unique marking or something. You can really personalise it. And then you also have a little caterpillar. The caterpillar is on one of these bars but doesn't have the backing shape to go behind it. It's just the actual caterpillar, but it's really easy to snip a piece of card to fit behind any of the openings, or you can paper piece them back in as well. One of my favourite dies from this set is a little tortoise, because it looks like Charles, my tortoise. And his silhouette is really, really pretty as well. And then it's a verso die, so you just cut the outside by itself to get the solid shape, or cut them both together. And I've actually got one cut in brown and one in white on here. So you can see, look at all that detail, and even his eye is like a proper little pinprick in there as well. I really love him, he looks so sweet. And you could even do like multiple tortoises going around a circle aperture, or marching upwards around an aperture maybe, for anybody who loves tortoises. Then you also get a little bird, which is the same kind of concept with the verso-ness. So if you cut the inside piece inside of it, you get the wing cutting out of the bird, like this, or you can just have the solid outside shape. Then you get a little basket, which is really, really nice to have. And it's a really adorable little basket that actually has a decorative piece that pops out of it. So you could cut that again in a different colour and piece it back in, and it can have like a cloth lining that sort of comes over the edge of a basket. That kind of a look to it. You also get the little bird house as well to go with the bird, and that looks really adorable when it's cut out. And you also get the heart that comes out of it, and I actually put the heart on the tortoise on the card that I've made. I just thought it fitted him quite nicely. Then you also get a little fence which cuts out like this. So the idea behind it is you can use these little tabs to help attach it behind a sort of layer, so you've just got a hint of a fence, or you can cut lots of them and start sticking them all together to create a longer picket fence to go all the way along your card. Then you also have 2 more things. You have a tiny little bumblebee. I haven't got any of these cut out because I used all the ones I cut on the cards that I've made, but he's so adorable, and I cut him in brown and white, and then cut the main body bit in the brown. So I snipped off the wings basically of the brown one, stuck it onto the white one, and then I lined the back of it with yellow, so you got the stripy effect. And to go with the bumblebee you also get the little beehive as well, and that actually has the oval opening in it and a tiny little bee into it as well, so you know, it kind of gives perspective then that tiny little bee is right next to the beehive, but if you have one of these bees anywhere else on your card, they're more in the foreground, which I thought was really cool. So you've got like the little perspective. And And that's all of the ones you get in this set. But I just think this is such a great set to get, because it gives you the option of creating a cool three-dimensional, really different kind of card. Because you can often buy cards like this in the shops, but I think they're usually like £10 or £15 for that like really detailed pop-up kind of look to them, but it still folds flat and goes into a card or into an envelope as well. But I just think that all of the little shapes are going to be so beautiful for any of the cards that you make as well. Have I got a piece of A6 card? Might have an A6 card blank. Yep, so this is an A6 card blank, and you can see how lovely that tree will fit on it. So if you like making smaller cards like I do, you can just use smaller elements from the die set as they are. But if you like making your bigger cards, the cards that I've made with the 3D elements, you could just make them flat as well if you want to, if you don't want to have the hassle of all the little 3D bits, although it's not very difficult to do. It is really simple. The way Tonic have designed it, it's really easy to do. But again, this, see, it would fit absolutely perfectly on an A6 card, so you could just place it on the card so you don't get the cut slots in it, and you could have the tree with the grasses in the foreground, and then you could just add the little tortoise. And look how easy, as like just a simple basic card that makes. So I think these dies are going to be so useful, especially to someone who's beginning with crafting as well, because all of these pieces will fit through the sort of A5 kind of size of a machine, so you don't actually have to have an A4 plate machine to be able to use all these dies, which is great. But again, you could do like 3 little rabbits. You could have 3 little rabbits on a card, or you can do the deer idea and have 3 little deer on a card. Or I really do think that idea of having maybe this way up, the deer here, and having a little circle frame around him, and if you could still see this flat portion, you could cut this piece and have it in front of him to sort of hide that as well. So I just think they're really... Oh, I forgot to say this one. You also get a carrot to go with the rabbit as well. But I just think this die set is so versatile. And then the second one is just as versatile but has slightly different animals. So this one is more like a garden, and it's called Garden Picnic, I think. And then the other one is more sort of foresty, woodlandy, and it's called Fanciful Forest. And it also reminds me a bit like Oriental as well, because the tree kind of looks a bit more like cherry blossom kind of tree, and you get a little bridge in it as well. So this one, the tree is actually 2 trees. There's 2 trees next to each other. You get a slightly taller tree and a shorter tree, and then you have, they do join in the middle, but you have this outside piece, which, like the other one, that's how you make it into the whole system of using the little 3D tabs. But so it doesn't have this big solid gap in the middle once you've stuck the intricate trees on, you also get this piece to cut out the centre, which is really nice, and it's really easy to line up as well. All you do is you place the outside die onto your cardstock, make sure you've already cut the interior one, place that die cut onto your card with the die on, and then you can just place this right where you need it and stick it in place. That's how I just cut it earlier this morning. So it's really simple to do. You can also trim these into 2 separate trees as well. I did that on both of my cards actually, I think, because it looks quite nice with 3 trees on a design. Then the bridge is really lovely, and again it has the 3 slits so that you can create your 3D layers in front and behind of it as well. And this one I was actually cutting out of 3 different colours of card, so I cut it out of light blue, green and grey, and then snipped off the bushes from the green, the water from the blue, and then left the rest of it in grey. And if you're doing that and layering, you might need to come back in with scissors and snip into the little slots, or maybe even make them a little bit wider, just so that everything will slot together nicely. But you'll realise that as you're trying to put it together. Then you'll also get a lovely intricate log, which is a really easy shape to cut around. So the actual die cuts out all the swirly wood bark detail, but to make it a solid die cut, all you do is stick your die cut onto a piece of card and literally just trim around the shape. It's really simple to trim around that. Then you also have a couple of extra like foliage pieces which again fit perfectly on that middle section of the folded piece. This one's like a little cluster with flowers and grass on it, and this one is like a little rock with grass on it. I didn't end up using that one in the end. I did cut it, but I don't know where I've put it now. Then you animal wise, you get a little fox, which is adorable. I really love the fox. And again, you get the outside of the fox, but you also get the one that cuts the entire fox with the detail in and is on that piece, so that you can add it in the centre of the 3D portion. And then you get the squirrel as well, which I think is so beautiful. I haven't got any of these ones cut out, but he's so gorgeous. Just that silhouette of a squirrel. Like if you live in the Isle of Wight, or you live somewhere else where there are like red squirrel warnings, you could create some really fun cards with this and have like the triangular warning sign with a red squirrel in it, which I thought would be really cool. And then you also have the intricate of the squirrel as well, and they look so good. They, you know, sometimes you get these kind of dies and you're just like, it doesn't quite look like the animal, but these really do. They really give that proper detail. Whoever designed these has done a really good job with getting the detail and like the characteristics of the little animals. I think it's brilliant. Then you also get an owl, which again is one of the verso ones, so it has the separate outside edge, and you just cut them both together to get the detail one. But he looks really gorgeous as well. And you have a hedgehog, and the hedgehog is so sweet too. And just the outline of the hedgehog, again, looks so much like a hedgehog. You don't even need the detail inside it, you just know what it is. You also get a little dragonfly, which I didn't actually use, but he's very cute. You get two little flowers, which are brilliant for adding to the tree, because you can see that the tree has flowers all over it. But on both the cards actually, I just left all of that brown. I cut it brown for the trunks, and I just left all of it brown. On one of the trees I added a lot of the flowers in sort of autumn colours, and on the other one I added some of the apples, because you also get a little tiny apple die. You get the acorn, which goes perfectly with the squirrel. You get a pine cone, which also goes really nicely with the squirrel. And then you get three extra little accessories. This one that can be an extra bush, or it can be a little puffy cloud. And then these two, which are your gorgeous little toadstools as well, which is really easy to... I cut them from oyster grey Craft Perfect card, and then brick red or cherry red to create the top part of it, and all you do is snip off the stalk from the red one and then stick them on top of each other. And I used chalk white stone drops to give the white portions on them too. So those are the two die sets. That took me quite a long time to go through them. Oh, and again, this is the main tree from this one, and that's an A6 card, and you can see how lovely that works just on a normal card. If you're not, because I mean, if you're not even into any sort of three-dimensional kind of cards and you do just want to make normal cards with them, it's not a lot of the die set that actually like makes this have to be a 3D set. A lot of the pieces, I mean only really this piece and just the slots on the bottom, make it into a kind of 3D sort of a die set. So you don't have to use it like that at all if you don't want to. And I mean, like the log, you could have the log and the fox and maybe the squirrel all on the same card and build a scene, maybe have the tree in the background and get that same almost 3D kind of a look, but you're just doing it flat onto a card. And the bridge, I think, would look really nice. You can have it landscape on the card, or it fits perfectly portrait on the card as well. And you could even have this down the bottom, and maybe you like painting, you could do a really cool sunset kind of a sky, or a sky with like really blurred out hillsides and stuff in the distance, and have the bridge as the foreground, maybe in silhouette or something. There's loads of different ways of using this or these two die sets, like not as they were intended at all, but you'll still get some really beautiful cards out of them. So I think these die sets are really good ones for people who love their versatility. A lot of the dimensional die sets from Tonic are really great for the versatility, because even like the box ones, you get so many panels that you can just use to create cool backgrounds or patterns or focal elements on your cards as well. So anyway, I think I've waffled on enough about all of the dies, so let's look at the samples that I've made. Okay, so I have done 2 samples for each of the die sets. So these 2 are using the Fanciful Forest die set. So let's show you these 2 first. This one is actually using them with all of the little 3D portions that create all of the dimension. So if I hold it upside down, you can see where I've used all the little loopy pieces to create that dimension. These 2 here I've just used on the first notch, so they're only like ½ centimetre away, but here I've actually done it to different degrees. So there's 2 notches here between the bridge and the squirrel, but between the back and the front I've used the final notch and then used the 3 notches down the side here as well, so it makes it the same level even though there's an extra level between part of it, if that makes any sense. But once you get playing with these, you'll really find the best way of putting them all together. And this was the last one I actually made, the last card I made, and after making like 3 cards before this one, I realised the best way of doing it is to definitely start from the front elements and then so you add the log to the bridge and then you think about how you're going to add the bridge to the trees and stuff, rather than what I was doing to begin with, where I was like, I'll put the trees down first, and then you're like, oh, not really sure how, like what's the easiest way to get the next thing to attach. But if you start from the front first, it's much easier. And all the way through making these cards, I've been like laying everything out and then taking a photo so I know what the placement was that I wanted as well. And if there's any portions like here, for example, if you wanted that bridge to have appeared a bit higher up so that not all the water is getting hidden by the log, you can always just cut your own extra pieces of card and add them onto it, so it would create a higher element, so the slits would still be down on the bottom but the element would be higher up. And I mean, as you make more of these cards, you'll be able to figure out the easiest ways and like how you would want to do that as well, so you could get the trees at different heights and all sorts of stuff. And this one, you can see I used the full double tree here, and I just cut one of the trees off and used it here, and I actually used the smaller tree on the other card that I'll show you in a second. For the backgrounds on all of these cards, I kept them really simple, and I just used this, which is a piece of dough flex. It's really dirty still. It's a piece of dough flex that I actually cut 7 years ago, I think, and because I think I did it in 2013. And all I did was just take some scissors and cut a random like cloud line from it. So you can do this from copy of paper or acetate as well, but I'd got some of this dough flex and I thought this is the kind of thing that I'm always using, so I just created my own. I've got a smaller one and a bigger one that I just keep on my desk, and all I did was take one of these blending brushes, which are just makeup brushes, and tumbled glass distress oxide, and then you start on the mask and blend off of it. And that's how you get that gorgeous cloud background that you can see behind them all. And then to give it a little bit more interest and bring in some Nuvo products, you can see there's Shimmer on there too. So all I did was take some of the Frostbite Glacier paste, and I just tapped some on in random patches with my finger, and then I also watered some down and splattered it on with a paintbrush as well. I just think that gives a really nice look to the card. And then where I've added the solid panels behind the trees, I also ink blended them with the tumbled glass, so then they really matched in with the background as well. For all of the sentiments on these cards, I've just used Tonic sentiment strips, and on some of them I've left the end pieces, and on others I've just chopped them off so they're just the word. You can see here all of the different elements that I've added onto here as well. So I've got the apples on the trees, and for the apples I just cut them out of red or green and then backed them onto a piece of cream card, so you got that little highlight is sort of in the creamy colour rather than it being see-through. I've used the clouds on here, and I've also used the clouds as bushes in a couple of places as well. Then I've got the little owl that's there, so I cut him from dark brown and a medium brown, and then I layered the dark brown onto a solid of a creamy colour, and then I cut the light brown wing off of the other one and stuck that over the top to give him a sort of layered look, and then I just used a pen to colour his orange beak in. Then for the toadstools, there's 3 toadstools, you can see how I've cut them in 2 different colours and snipped off the red top from them, and then I used the stone drops to add the little white portions. For the acorns, again, I cut them in dark brown and a medium brown, and then snipped the acorn cap off of the dark one and stuck it onto the medium brown one. You can see how I've backed the log with a lighter brown cardstock as well, and you can see for the bridge I backed the water with a darker blue cardstock as well, so that the little ripples in the water showed through as a darker blue colour. And if you wanted to, for the bridge, you could even do that behind this handrail. You could make it so that's maybe more solid stone going across the top rather than it being a little handrail. But obviously keep these portions open because they look quite nice as like the openings underneath the bridge. Oh yeah, behind here I've also added the little flower border with a few of the flowers that you can add onto the tree if you want to as well, and then there's a few little pine cones and bits and pieces on there. And I recommend, I mean, you might find different ways of doing it, but I recommend using a top folding card for them, because if you have a side folding card, it's standing all right as this is side folding, but when all of the weight is on the bottom, it tends to tip over like this. But if you've got it as a top folding card, you know, all the weight's at the bottom and it's standing up really nicely. It's not going to topple over or anything. So that is my first one using the Fanciful Forest die set. And then I also did this one, again, using a sentiment strip for the For You, and I added in the cute little fox on this one. He looks so adorable. You just cut him out of a couple different colours of orange, one with the intricate, one with the solid, stick them both together, cut him again from white and piece the white pieces back in just to give him a little bit of a design. You can use a dark brown pen to colour in the ears, or you can paper piece the ears back in. And then I just used a black pen to draw his little socks on his feet and colour in his nose and his eyes as well. And he just looks so adorable. And then for the hedgehog, I did dark brown with the intricate detail, a medium brown solid, and then I just cut his little face out again from another brown and paper piece that back in. This one you can see there I haven't backed the acorn, so you can leave that little highlight open, or you can back it with the same coloured cardstock as well. I've also used the little cloud as a bush too, and I've layered the bridge in the same way, and you can see the green bushes more clearly on this one. And then for the trees, I've used 2 different types of trees, and on this, no, 2 different colours of trees I mean. On this one I used 2 different browns for the main detail and then the backing, but on this one I used the same colour brown, so you can mix it up and give more of a subtle bark look, or you can give more of an evident bark look, and the other cards are even more evident because I've used a more different brown sort of a colour. So you've got the light on the light and the dark on the dark over here, and then I've just left all the flowers showing but added extra flowers on it to give it that autumn feel, because I used autumny colours, but instead of the trees having autumn coloured leaves on them, they've got autumn coloured flowers. So this one's not using any of the pieces that create this 3D effect. This is just using 3D foam and covering up any of the little slits that are in anything, or covering up the solid piece that's underneath the fox and stuff, and just creating an aperture. This was using one of the dotted oval dies from Tonic, and they're stitched rectangles, and I just cut an aperture out of the card and then built the whole scene around that. So those are the 2 that I did with the Fanciful Forest. And then the Garden Picnic set, I'm sorry if these aren't the actual names, but that's just what I've got at the moment. They sound like they're the proper names. So these were the 2 that I made with the other set. This was actually the first one that I made. You can see on all of them how they fold flat. I mean, it's still a little bit bulky, so it's probably going to be, you know, a small parcel kind of a postage if you are going to post them. but they do just slide off to one side and fold flatter, so it's not like you've got to post something that's an inch thick. You know, it's going to be maybe a centimetre thick with all the different layers. So for this one, I cut the whole tree out of brown, then backed it in a different coloured brown, then cut it again from green and snipped off the like the top portions, and then cut it again from pink and pieced the flowers back in. And I also added some pink glittery Nuvo drops on the flowers. It is, I should still have it out, it is this one, which is called Enchanting Pink, which came out in the blue blossom colour trend. I just thought that went really nicely, and I also used it for the little heart that I added onto the tortoise as well. And this card has got, this was the, I just said that, didn't I? This was the first one that I did, so I kept the like the 3D pieces a little bit more simple. They're all just a rectangular shape, rather than this one. When I got more used to how it all worked, you can sort of interlock them and make it more complicated. So you can see, and this is more of a complicated version, but you can just do it really simply as well. And you can obviously vary the height at which things come out from depending on which slot you use when you're putting it all together too. And for this one, you can see where I've cut the rabbit from two different colours, and then I also cut him from pink and paper pieced his nose and ears back in. I've used this sort of larger grassy border from a darker green, but then in front of the rabbit, so that you couldn't see the white rectangle behind him or below him, I've also cut one of the grassy stumps from the other die set and added that behind as well. I've done a couple of the little fences. I've done the piece with the watering can. I cut the whole thing from green first, so you had the grassy green at the bottom. Then I cut the watering can from grey. Then to get the pieces to be filled in, I stuck that to another piece of grey card and snipped around it and then stuck it over the top. And then I did the same thing with the flower pot, and then I just snipped out the pink flowers to go on the flowers on there. Then the tortoise, I paper pieced him back in and also added a little bit of colouring just to get the difference between his shell and his body. And then the carrots, I cut from orange, snipped the green piece off, then stuck that onto another piece of a different colour orange, trimmed around it so it filled in the little gaps, and then stuck it to the green one so you had the greenery on the top of it as well. And the background was done in the same way as the other ones. And then the bird, I just cut from light blue and dark blue and mixed it together. And I also cut his beak, oh no I didn't, I cut him all from orange first and then snipped his beak off on the dark blue one and stuck that over the top, and then added the light blue onto it as well. And then finally, sorry, this video's ended up being way longer than I thought it was going to be, but finally I've got this one that's also with the garden picnic one. And originally I was hoping to make this a kind of folded insert that would go inside a card. That's why the back piece is bent, but I think that actually just helps with the whole thing. But as I started finishing it, I was like, I don't want to risk folding that in half and it not working. So I've just left it as a sort of an A5 kind of a card, which you could add a card blank behind as well. And then the idea is that it would fold flat into an A5 envelope, and then when the recipient gets it, they can just go like this, and then it will stand up nicely on a mantelpiece and show the whole scene in there. And I used the bumblebees on this one, and I tried to like twist some invisible thread around the bumblebees so that they sort of dangle in the scene, so they look like they're flying from the beehive or from the other tree to the beehive. So it kind of works. And then I added two little deer on there as well. You can see how cute they look with their little pink ears. I added the caterpillar in there too, some of the flowers, using some of the waste flowers that I'd paper pieced back in after cutting it in pink. I paper pieced them back in and did the glitter drops on top, but I used some of the leftovers on the little grassy mound as well. And then I also cut an extra of the top of the tree and added that as a bush down the bottom as well. But you can see how you can easily extend the scene. So that's going from something that's just over 4 inches in length to something that's more like 8 inches in length, so you can really elongate the scene. Or for this one, because I was adding the tree directly to the card and not with any of the sticky out bits, I could move the tree higher up, so you can also alter the scene by adding some pieces directly onto your card and the rest of them in a 3D manner. And this one you can see here, this was kind of a bit more simple, using those little blocks that go together to create the 3D effect. So I hope you enjoyed this look at these wilderness adventure kind of 3D pop-up sort of cards. I'm not 100% sure what the actual name is going to be called, but the title of the video will tell you what that is. And all the links to everything will be below the video as well. And I didn't actually film any of these, but as I said at the beginning, hopefully I'll have gotten around to doing some of my other ideas with the die set, and I might try and recreate something like this as well, hopefully, if I have enough time. And I may even pop in again at the end of this video with some more examples too. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed looking at these die sets, seeing everything that's in there and some examples of easy and difficult ways of how you can use it, and showing like size comparison to an A6 card and stuff. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye! Hello, so I've got a few extra samples to show you with the die sets, the Wilderness Adventures, and I've also got the actual package dies to share with you as well. So the previous cards I've shown you in this video were all using, well, a few of them were using the die set as it was intended, with all the little like 3D parts to it. But for all of these ones, I just kind of kept them a bit more simple, and I've actually done this one as 3 ovals that go in front of each other, and then each oval layer has got a different element on it. So you've got the rabbit at the back, and then you've got the watering can and the flower pot, and then the caterpillar coming out the front with a little carrot and a bird on the final scene as well. And I wasn't that sure about the colour scheme to begin with, but I think it kind of works. I was just trying to keep it really simple, so you don't have to do any colouring on it, just having 2 colours of cardstock. So I think it kind of works quite well, and the cotton specialty papers in the background really work nicely as well. Then I did a little Christmas card, literally just utilising the deer because he's so sweet. So that's a little Christmas card. This is the Tonic stencil. They did some stencils last Christmas, which had like a little tree scene in it, and I just coloured through the stencil with alcohol pens and then used some fresh snowfall glitter accents on top of it. And I just got the little deer, which is lighter brown, darker brown, and then I paper pieced in with a little bit of the oyster grey colour as well. Then I've done this one, which is using the gorgeous like cherry blossom tree, and I really packed it full of little flowers. There's even a few of the pine cones in there as well. I added the bridge at the bottom, and I just cut 3 of the bridges in different colours. So I had a light blue one, a green one, and the sort of taupey coloured one, and then I just sort of snipped them apart to give the whole sort of layered scene. And then I've also got the little squirrel down here too. I think on the other cards I'd done the squirrel in 2 different greys, but I decided to do a grey and a cream for this one, so all his little details stand out really nicely. I just used one of the sentiment strip dies as the sentiment. I've done an ink blendy cloud background to sort of frame it all, make it a scene. And I used Love Potion Dream Drops in the centres of all of those flowers on there as well. So I thought that was quite a nice composition, and having the little dragonfly flying above it as well. Then this one is using the gorgeous little fox, and I just had to put him in a little circle aperture in the long grass with a load of little toadstools and little acorns as well. I just thought that'd be perfect. And I've also splashed some of the Opal, what's it called? Opal Quartz Shimmer pen in the background on that ink blended sky. And the little Just Because is from the slider die sets as well. That's one of the sentiments that's included in the double slider. And then the final one, I tried to go for a big card. I'm not sure I really like it on a big card, but you know, it's better for the television having bigger cards. And I just built up a scene on this one with the other tree, and I put apples in the tree. I've got the little tortoise down here, and he's taken a bite out of one of the apples. And then I've done a white picket fence behind with the little tufts of grass with all the little flowers on there as well. And I've just used a glitter marker to add sort of details to the grassy hill and like little tufts of grass on there as well. And for the background, I just used two different blue colours of ink and the new precision blending brushes from Tonic, and just made like a dusky sort of cloudy sky for there as well. And then I've just used part of a sentiment strip which says Winter Wishes and some Dymo label to do the sentiment as well. So those are my extra samples just to throw in and show you. And these are what the actual packages look like. And it's really surreal seeing my cards on the packaging for a die set, which is really cool. I do really love that one. I think that was my favourite that I'd done before. But you can see, where's the fox? I've used different colours of card for this one. And it gives him a slightly different look. I have actually almost paper pieced him in exactly the same way, but using the different colours of card gives him a slightly different sort of look to him. Yeah, I really like how that turned out. And you can see here how I used the acorns just from a solid brown, but on this one I actually cut the little acorn cap from the darker colour and the acorn from the lighter colour as well. But I think that turned out really nicely. And it's really cool to see my cards on the packaging as well. I love that they give you little examples of everything that's included in there as well. So you can see you've got the squirrel, the fox, the owl, the hedgehog in that one. And then in this one you've got the watering can, you've got the rabbit, you've got the deer, the tortoise and the caterpillar in there as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little extra addition to the video. Bye!